Hello, and welcome back to Drama After Dark from WGBH. We are here tonight talking about Call the Midwife, Episode 5, Season 9. I'm Jackie Bruley, your co-host, joined as always by the lovely, the wonderful Andrea Willanen.
Yes, thank you, Jackie.
I try to get as hype as possible because I can't actually see you in person, so I gotta be like extra effusive.
No, I haven't been able to touch your beautiful face in days. It's a little face waterfall for you.
Yeah, of course. For those who don't know, which is probably all of you out there in TV land, Andrea and I not only do the show together, but we also sit directly across from each other in the office when we are allowed to be in the office. So we feel very far apart right now.
It is.
Anyway, let's talk about Call the Midwife. So, Andrea, are you prepared with your speed recap tonight?
I am, and I have to say the scary thing about it is how I failed 2 weeks ago. You beat me, so if this was a game of horse, I would have an H right now. And then I got this week, and this week was actually pretty substantive in terms of all the different storylines that were going on. So let's see if I can do it.
I believe in you.
Thank you. At least somebody does around here.
All right, let me get this positioned. Always challenging. And go!
The hills are popular or alive with the sound of music, and it seems no one is spared from its siren song of cinema. But Monica Joan is especially enthused, though fate is not smiling on her, as she can't seem to beg or win a ticket. More on that later. Meanwhile, a young couple struggles with anxiety around their newborn, and to Poplar's resident superwoman, Grace, is pulled in every direction by her family. When Grace explodes at Sister Julianne, it sends Julianne on a journey of self-discovery, including going to see The Sound of Music out of habit. Yikes! She learns something along the way. Oh! And she takes all of Nonatus to the movie. Damn, that was so close.
Andrea.
Now I'm gonna have an O. My true state in life, losing at horse.
Which is surprising to me because you're pretty tall. I have always been bad at basketball.
Oh, they tried to recruit me for basketball in high school, and joke's on them. I failed at that, and then they were like, maybe track. She has long legs. Not my forte, friends.
You know, that's what they get for stereotyping and just assuming that because you're tall, you would be good at the basketballs. Nope. But enough about that. Let's talk about our favorite moments from tonight's episode. I think we have to start with what you ended on. Sister Julianne taking herself to the movies.
So good, right? Like, first of all, seeing Jenny Agutter out of the nun's habit for me, as we know, was just amazing, because I love her as an actress and always have. So being able to see her come out of that almost uniform she wears every episode was really amazing. And then just something about her is so delicate that it felt like such a vulnerable place for her while still being a place of power in a way. So it was a very interesting thing to see. I especially like the thing that always sticks with me is when she's sitting in the movie theater and she goes to bite the chalk ice and she's so delicate with it. Like the way she does it, you're just like, oh, it's like a little butterfly moment for Sister Julianne.
I really was surprised by how thrown I was by seeing her out of habit. It's sort of interesting because we see them in these outfits every week, but I hadn't realized how used to that I had gotten until we saw her in Civvies, and I was just like, oh my God, who is that? Oh, it's Sister Julianne.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was definitely crazy. And I loved it though. I thought it was great because I think, I think when you live that life where you've made this decision, I mean, it's the same thing as anybody. Like it's a midlife crisis for her, right? In the same way that like a midlife crisis for a married man is the stereotypical convertible and the, 18-year-old girlfriend. Sister Julianne's was much less threatening to other people.
I'm going to go to the movies by myself. If only that was everyone's midlife crisis.
I mean, that will be mine, but I've been having that midlife crisis since I was 15. So there you go. That being said, my favorite moment had to do with another sister on the show, Sister Hilda, who is our resident bossy nun, now that, bless her heart, Evangeline has gone over the Rainbow Bridge.
Love you forever, Sister Angelina.
Oh, bless her heart. But the heart-to-heart she has with Ron, I believe is the name of the worried dad. I really loved that. I thought that was a really nice moment. And it's, we talked in the past episodes about how we haven't really connected with them yet, with the two new nuns, Frances and Hilda. And this was it was a nice moment for her to shine through and to develop her character more.
Yes, I completely agree. And speaking of that family, I think one of my favorite moments was also Phyllis getting so besotted with their cute baby. I think his name was like, I just love someone who's so stuffy and sort of standoffish, being like, look, that is one cute baby.
Yeah, basically anytime our coworker Ellen brings her daughter into the office, or Stacy brings Donovan in, and we're like, all other babies are stinky, but these babies are the best babies.
Babies are cute because they're our babies. Yeah, that sort of was the vibe. It was like, she was like, oh, okay, I don't really like men in the delivery room. I don't trust them. You get a pass just because you're like very earnest, and now I've decided that your baby is the only cute baby I've ever seen.
Yeah. Speaking of cute and precious babies, though, I know you had a favorite moment with Sheila and Dr. Turner, who are forever like adorable babies at heart.
I could not handle this movie date. From the moment that it became clear that they were going to go see The Sound of Music together, it made me delighted, because like, you kind of forget that their story is eerily similar in some ways to the plot of Sound of Music. And then they went to the movie and loved it and were so cute about their relationship. And then they had fish and chips, which is the thing I want most in the world right now.
Can we just take a second out to RIP my England vacation, which I was supposed to leave on this Friday?
Yes.
Like, I was supposed to, dear world, I was supposed to go to London and Cornwall this Friday, which I talked about in our Poldark episodes because that's where I got the idea. And having to watch Sheila and Dr. Turner have what looked like the most amazing fish and chips in creation out of a wagon in 1960s London, I was like, that's it. I'm done.
I'm done. I'm just going to walk. I'm going to walk to England. Yeah, seriously, pour one out for your trip. That is truly upsetting. And this episode really did try to like grind it in a little bit. Quite rude. So that's what our favorite moments were. But of course, we want to know what your favorite moments were, audience. So you can put those in Facebook. You can put them on Twitter under the post or with the hashtag Drama After Dark. You can put them on YouTube. We will check there as well. And make sure that you vote on our Twitter poll about what you think the answer is for the hot take debate coming up in a little bit. But first, let's take to the streets and see what people have to say.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Okay, first comment of the day is from David. Hi,
David! Yay!
He says, I miss going to the movies by myself, and I do too, man.
I miss going to the movies, period.
Yes. This made me want to go see The Sound of Music in the theater so badly, or any movie in the theater. I would go see Cats again in the theaters, frankly.
It made me want to see an action movie because those are my favorite theater movies, even though they're not my favorite movies generally.
Because they're great. Let's see, what else do we got out here? What else do we got for comments? Twitter? Facebook? All right. This, I think we have to address. I Cherish Writing says, I feel like Sister Monica should get tickets just because she's Sister Monica Joan. This is the most, I've agreed with this more than anything I've ever seen. She should get to go see The Sound of Music every day if she so chooses.
The fact that she doesn't have an agreement with the theater owner in town yet to just let her in, like she did famously with the Siemens house.
Yeah.
I am appalled at Poplar at the moment. I am appalled at whoever her representative is with the theater. To be honest, I don't think highly of them. Cruel people. Cruel there.
Honestly, 100%. She just gets so much joy out of it, and I feel like all the other patrons would get joy out of seeing her joy.
And to be honest, every time we see the theater, it's not full. So why doesn't Monica Joan just have a seat?
Right. You don't have to give her free snacks, but you should. She's earned them.
Yeah. She probably delivered your kids. Come on.
Probably. All right. One more comment here. So at Janet_Lynn says, so much has changed in all of our lives right now, so I'm thankful there is still Call the Midwife on PBS on Sunday evenings. Extra comforting these days, good for the heart and soul, and tonight there seems to be some sort of Sound of Music theme. Yay!
Girl, same,
Yes.
girl.
A big mood. So yeah, keep them coming. We want to hear from you, especially your thoughts on what you really liked about tonight's episode. And with that, we're going to go into the most hotly contested part of the show, the hot take debate. Woo!
Our hot take debate is very fiery.
It is.
Very fiery. And while we felt that we could see both sides of it, we did both fall a little bit on opposite sides. Jackie, do you want to take it away?
Sure do. So tonight's debate topic, as Andrea said, spicy. Does society ask too much of women? Coming in hot with some feminism tonight. Would you like me to start, Andrea? Take the first opinion? Okay.
For beauty.
Yikes! All right, well, I'm going to just ignore that and get started. So here's the deal. Yes, society obviously takes advantage of women and asks too much of us. You can see a great example of this with Grace, which is why we're talking about this, obviously. She has fallen into the default caretaker role for 3 generations of people. 4 generations of people. That is insane. And it's all because people just assume that she's going to be the one to fill these gaps. And it's not even just that society's telling that. It's like the people in her family who should be able to tell that she needs help are the ones that are, that's, I think, the part that really got to me, is her mother saying, I refuse any help other than yours. It's her daughter saying, I don't want to be treated at the hospital where there's like competent, wonderful people who the audience happens to love. I'm coming to your house and you're going to take care of me and I have to be on bed rest. Her husband kind of gets a pass because he has 1 lung. Yeah. But yes, absolutely. I think society asks too much of women. And I think it's not just her. I think it's also like all of our nun friends who are doing a lot of the caring for Poplar, whether it's acknowledged by the citizens, not so much this week. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, I think, where I'm coming from. But you had a great point, which I would like you to share with our
Thank you. So I think in general that yes, society asks too much of women, expecting them to have it all. However, in the case of Grace specifically, I think that some of this stuff is what she bought into, right? Like, I think you are obliged to take care of the people who took care of you. I think she's obliged to take care of her mother in this situation. I think as somebody who served as a caretaker, though I know you have in some capacity as well, Jackie, as somebody who served as a caretaker for an elderly person who took care of you your whole life, why wouldn't you want to do that? I understand it is hard. It is stressful. But those are moments you won't get back. And those are moments that if you don't do them, you will regret them. And I think that it's especially in this case, you can't resent her mother in any way. I think also taking care of her husband in that way, that's what she signed on for when she got married. That's what she signed on for with her daughter when she had a child. You know, granted, the daughter has had more children, but kind of the way the cookie crumbles. I think a lot of this stuff Grace signed on for, and, you know, it all hit at once, because if, you know, her husband had had a lung, the kid wouldn't have been as hard to take care of, her daughter. And
Sure.
I think if he had a lung, it would have been easier to take care of her mother. If her mother was better, it would have been easier to take care of the husband and daughter, and vice versa with the other two. With the daughter feeling better and taking care of the father, and her taking care of the mother, you know, it would have, it's unfortunate because things went all in one direction and it all pointed to Grace. But at the same time, I think that she signed a social contract with her family when she took all these things.
Interesting. I think that's a good point. And I do think that it's one of the important things about society is that we owe it to each other to take care of each other. But I will say, I have a really hard time believing that Grace is the only possible person that all these folks can lean on. Like, especially just given the era, it seems weird to me that she's the only adult in the situation who can do anything. Like,
well, given the fact that somebody's making her daughter pregnant, like,
Right.
You know?
Right. Like, daughter has a husband who is like too scared to say anything in the one scene that we see him, and he's just like, "Yes, ma'am."
Yeah. I mean, her
and
daughter is a terror, in my
yes,
opinion.
she was a terror. She was an interesting character, and I love that she genuinely thought she was going to get away with it in that
I know,
last
but
scene.
also like the fact that Grace raised her to believe that.
Yes, yeah, which I think that's a good point. But it's interesting when Val kind of points that out, that like this generation is very self-sufficient. Maybe the younger isn't as much.
Yeah.
And you sort of wonder, like, oh man, did they make a mistake in raising people to like need that? I don't know. I think it's an interesting like generational discussion.
I think also what we see a lot in Call the Midwife is the World War II generation, which is Grace and her husband, are the generation that had to take care of their children through the Blitz. So they have to be self-sufficient because there was a war on. They had to get food somewhere. They had to get their kids to bomb shelters, all this stuff. And their kids spent their whole life with people constantly worrying about them and constantly making sure that they ate enough, because there was a genuine fear there for that. So I think that's why her daughter and her daughter's generation is thought of as not as self-sufficient, because they were the ones being taken care of and then being coddled because they survived and people were happy that they survived. Whereas the older generation had to already live through that.
Yeah.
But
I think that's a really good point. I think my takeaway is we agree that it is a good thing to take care of other people.
yes,
We disagree perhaps that it should be falling on Grace and that other people could chip in.
Yes. And we agree in general that society does ask too much of women.
Yes. Speaking of, let's take a look at the poll, because I think this might be one of our spicier.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see.
I'm interested to see how it falls.
Okay, so we have a lot of votes so far. It's coming down heavily in the yes category. We've got about 84% of people, actually, yeah, 84% saying yes, 16% saying no.
Fair enough.
But I also think I heard that there were some comments. Aha, yes, Zach has sent us some comments on from Facebook. So Moira says, working mothers today have it very difficult, a lot of pressure.
Yes, it's very
Agreed.
true. It can't be, you can't have it all, or you should have it all. You should be able to have it all theory.
Yes. Yeah, which I think is like such an intense. It promises more than it can deliver, the idea of having it all. Like that's,
Yes.
To have it all, you have to have a lot of things. That's kind of scary.
Yes.
Moira also had a great comment about her favorite moment from tonight.
Oh.
So, when she realizes how invisible she is in the market out of habit, she understands that the middle-aged mother caught in between generations feels. A very good point. We are going to take it now to the Megan in the Field segment, which is going to be one of my favorite of the night. Megan in the Field. Hey, Megan.
Hi, Jackie.
Thank you so much for joining us again. Our 60s correspondent.
I'm very pleased to be here. You know, I'm losing track of time a bit. I think we've been in quarantine for 6 weeks now, but I think we're kind of getting the hang of it here. And it's kind of fun that we can do all this live from our homes.
Megan, has it genuinely been 6 weeks, or am I? Wow.
You know what? Someone clarified that in the comment section. I've totally lost track of time. What is time anymore? What is time?
You know what? That's fair. It's been a little bit crazy. And tonight we're here to talk to you about something that seemed a little bit crazy when we first heard it on the show tonight.
Everybody's favorite Vulcan, right?
Yes. Right, you are, Andrea. Everybody's favorite Vulcan / maybe not. Megan, what did you find out about Dr. Spock? Who is this guy?
Okay, yes. So this came up in a really sweet storyline, I thought, about the new father who's really, really excited to attend the birth of his first child. It kind of showed the changing gender roles of the time and how different generations are approaching childbirth, which was really nice. And we saw him carrying around a stack of books, including one of Dr. Spock's books, and called him brilliant. Now, I have to be honest, when I first heard this name, my first thought was Star Trek ? Because I was not familiar with him, although I don't know much about Star Trek, but that's where my mind went. But that is completely wrong. So this guy, the basics was, he was a pediatrician, one of the most prolific pediatricians of the time. He wrote a book called Baby and Child Care, which was published in 1946.
Okay.
And it was actually one of the best-selling books in history. It's second only to the Bible in terms of sales. It sold over 50 million worldwide, which is pretty amazing.
That's crazy.
Right? I know. And it was revolutionary at the time. For a little bit of context, obviously, it's coming after, the Great Depression and World War II, what you guys were just talking about. And this book basically raised the baby boom generation. It was basically like the Bible for parents during the baby boom generation.
Wow.
And a lot of his advice in the book was very, it sounded simple to us now, and it's kind of like a given, but at the time it was really revolutionary. He was all about advocating common sense in parenting and kind of listening to the child and moving away from very strict, like regimented parenting styles that were more popular before his book.
All right.
So he advocated a lot of common sense and really encouraged mothers. He did talk about mostly mothers in the book, but parents in general, of listening to their instincts and trusting that they know what's best for the child. And, we saw Dr. Turner in the episode say, which I thought was a really sweet moment, trust yourself, you know more than you think. So that was always his advice for mothers. And he also believed that children should grow up in warm, engaging environments. So like I said, this sounds very kind of intuitive to us now, but I think back then that was like a really big deal. And it really changed kind of the parenting style for both countries.
That is fascinating. I guess I didn't realize how big of an impact he had. I guess I had heard the name a couple of times before, but wow, that's a lot of copies of a book. My goodness.
Yeah.
Now, Megan, what other interesting info did you uncover? Because I think you found some other tidbits you wanted to share.
Yeah, so as I was researching Dr. Spock, he's an amazing doctor, but he had quite some interesting side hobbies, let's say that. So first of all, he was a very talented athlete. He won a gold medal in the Olympics.
What?
Get this, for rowing. Yeah. In 1924, he was at the Paris Olympics and he won a gold medal while he was a student at Yale. So not only has he wrote one of the best-selling books of all time, but he won a gold medal. So pretty cool. Aside from medicine and athletics, he was actually got very active in politics. He was a big anti-war activist. He spoke out a lot against the Vietnam War, and he was even arrested in 1968 for promoting resistance to the draft. And he was, and it's kind of a cool local connection, he was arrested in Boston, and he was known as one of the Boston Five. So it was a group of people who were arrested for encouraging people to abet the draft. And if you're really interested in this part of history, which I think is really fascinating, we actually did a whole episode about, on the WGBH Rewind digital series, we did a whole episode about a march on the Boston Common where people went and burned their draft cards in the Arlington Street Church to protest the Boston Five arrest. So if you want to learn more about that, we'll drop a link in the comments, so please check that out. It's a really cool part of history. And he was so politically active, he even ran for president in 1972 as an anti-war candidate for the People's Party. So he was all over the place. And I uncovered a kind of a cool called the Midwife connection. I found a New York Times article about a protest that was happening at the American Embassy in London. And right in the middle of the photo was Vanessa Redgrave, who fans of the show, I'm sure, will recognize. She's the narrator of Call the Midwife. So kind of a cool little connection there. So I'll drop the link to that also in the comment section.
Megan, what a tangled web you have uncovered.
I know. I love this. I mean, this is so exciting. I love uncovering all these connections.
This is delightful.
Very cool.
Not as delightful as a President Spock would have been, because then
I know
our country really could have lived long and prospered.
Yeah, I know. That could have been his campaign slogan, I think. And I'm curious. I would love to hear from the parents that are watching. We're not all parents. I'm curious, did you guys read Dr. Spock's book? Is this something that you have taken advice from in your own parenting? Do you think his advice applies now? I'd be really curious to hear what people think about his advice. If you want to drop it in the comments below or tweet at us.
Yes, that's great. I would encourage everyone to do that because, yeah, great question, Megan.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was awesome to be here.
Wait, Andrea, do you have a question? You have a question?
Not really a question, but more just to say, while he wasn't a Vulcan, he was still an overachiever.
Andrea, I actually can't hear you right now.
Oh no! She says,
Sorry.
well, Spock wasn't a Vulcan, he was an overachiever, which,
yeah.
True.
It sounds like Dr. Spock was an overachiever for sure.
Yes.
Delightful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a wonderful Megan in the Field segment. We hope to have you back from the field again to talk about more 1960s trivia and fun facts in the future.
Can't wait for it.
So now that we've done Megan in the Field, it's time for our next segment, one of our favorites, Most Valuable Midwife.
Woohoo!
Yay!
Yay! So I think we both, again, had two different selections this week, didn't we, Jackie?
Indeed we did, which I think is fun. We're going to mix it up a little bit. So would you like to go first and tell the folks at home who you think is the most valuable of all the midwives?
Absolutely. So my favorite this week had to be Sister Frances, aka Babyface Nun. Not Babyface Nelson. She's not a gangster yet. So Sister Frances is the adorable nun who joined last season, I believe, who were just sort of getting to know better. She's adorable. And in this episode, she was really involved with Grace's storyline. And she felt that she learned a lesson because throughout the story, she sort of acted as if she knew best for the family and for what Grace was doing. And I think what she learned was she really needs to listen to the patients despite what she thinks may or may not be happening. So I think that was great. And in the end, she finally did come through for Grace and got her the help she needed, replaced the owl that she broke, which was personal to her, to Grace, that is. So I think Sister Frances really shone through this episode. And again, we learned more about her. A little bit that she is exactly as she looks. She's very sweet and wants to help everybody, but she did come through for Grace, and that she does want to help everybody, and she will do what's right, which I think is important.
She also is so willing to admit that she doesn't know everything, which is really refreshing.
Yes.
Not that everyone else isn't, willing to learn, but she's cute that way, which I like.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, I have a different pick for Most Valuable Midwife. And actually, it's another one of our sort of like so far unknown quantity kind of gals, which is Sister Hilda.
Yes.
This week, I think she really pulled her weight in a way that we haven't necessarily seen before in two important ways. The first one being the fact that she has taken over teaching the mothercraft classes to the dads, which I guess should be the fathercraft classes. I cannot think of a more thankless task than to go to like the pub or wherever this was and like hang out with a bunch of like sort of rowdy men who don't think they have to be there and are razzing each other and teach them about like basic infant care.
I like to think that they made Val go get the guys, and Val just sort of came in and was like, right now, who's having a baby? All right, you, come with me.
Wrapped them all up in her cape and took them.
Yeah, exactly. She threatened to like, beat them at darts to get them to come in.
Or like, we won't serve you at my family's pub anymore if you don't come in.
Exactly.
Yeah, they did. Some of them seemed like a little bit like hostages.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Hilda's taking on a really hard job. And then on top of that, she realizes that she's made sort of an enormous blunder when she calls out baby Steven's birthmark and makes it better instead of just sort of being like, well, whatever, it'll be fine. They'll figure it out. She goes and finds nervous dad Ronald, and has like a really wonderful chat with him that I think actually makes a big difference, just as much as Dr. Turner's quoting of Dr. Spock that we mentioned earlier.
Yes.
When she says like, you're already a good dad. You already have the tools in your tool belt because you want to be a good parent.
Yes. Ron, like across the board, just adorable man. So happy. Wish everybody could have dad like that, honestly.
Oh my God.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big mood. Mood,
Dad Ron. Yeah, so I guess we both have really great picks here. They're both very valuable. They're all valuable midwives.
They are. And I think this week was interesting because it really focused on the nuns and ex-nun in a way that we haven't really seen before. Like usually it's a good mix of the layperson midwives, the nurses, and the nuns. And I thought this week was interesting because it really did focus on the nuns in a way that really subtly dove into what they give up to become nuns and to serve people. So I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It was such a nice balance between, you know, the nuns that we know from the show and the nuns that we all sort of know from The Sound of Music. I think it's not too much to say that the demographic of the people that watch Call the Midwife and the people who have seen The Sound of Music multiple times is probably like one big circle that overlaps entirely.
Or at least a very tight Venn diagram.
Yes. So it was kind of nice to draw on that. I would have been so disappointed if they hadn't used this opportunity to do some Sound of Music.
Yeah, Hundo P. It was great.
It really was. I got all misty-eyed about The Sound of Music. It's one of my favorites. What can I say? It's just delightful.
I'll be excited if they have a Fiddler on the Roof episode.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
You never know. Oh boy. Okay. So it looks like we lost Jackie a little bit there. Let's see. Oh, you're back.
Sorry. Gotta love the internet challenges. Always good.
Yeah.
Thanks for your patience, everybody. I have the comments. I will pull them up.
Okay.
I'm back. Okay, so we've got a couple of great comments from our folks on Facebook. Judy says, Call the Midwife was once again a wonderfully good show. Judy,
yes,
I completely agree. We've got Anthony, who says a lot of parenting the parents tonight, which is a really good point. Thank you, sir. Yes, that was definitely a theme of this episode.
Yeah. Big mood this season.
Seriously. I wonder if that's reflective of something the writers are going through or something, because it's been a lot this season in particular, more and more.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, we always had that in some of the earlier seasons, like with, but it was usually like the people who had come from the workhouses, and now it's much more at home is what we're seeing, which is interesting. And I wonder if it's just because of the years that we're in.
Yes. Yeah. The history of this era is kind of fascinating. So I'm glad they're really deep diving, because it's nice to see, because we don't, we're American. So.
Well, but also we have not really lived that yet.
Yes.
In our generation.
It's true. It's true. I'm going to use one of our favorite comments here for our comment of the day. It's, of course, at Kathy Ginter, who always tweets out the closing monologue.
Oh, yay, Kathy.
Which we love. So here we go. Tonight's closing monologue. The wise will always learn. The generous will always find they've got more to give. Thus we cross the threshold into freedom, into progress, into embracing all that's new. The world shifts around us and we shape ourselves to fit. Imperfect and beautiful, wounded and thriving, delicate, invincible, forever moving on. Time is not the tide. It moves in only one direction. Go forth with courage and hope. Change is not loss. We must run with it, dance with it, give it all we have. Couldn't be any better words for what we're all going through right now, and this episode in particular.
Call the Midwife is a little psychic when they filmed this, I'm thinking. At least with the monologues have been pretty timely.
Indeed. Indeed they have.
Which has been interesting. On that note, we're going to close up for the week. Thank you, everybody, once again for joining us, for your amazing comments, for coming in for our hot take debate and giving us your side of the story. We will see you next week with Season 9, Episode 6. In the meantime, stay safe out there and wash your hands. Bye.
Bye.